Welcome to the Growth Plus Exit podcast, where owners of privately held middle market companies talk about founding, scaling, and exiting their businesses successfully. Learn how to maximize and monetize your business on your own terms. Let's get started.
Hello, I'm Heather Bennett, your host for the Growth Plus Exit podcast, featuring middle market owners and experts talking about founding, growing, scaling, and exiting their businesses on their own terms. Past guests have included Dangwala Altman, CEO of CX Precision Medicine, Maggie Lord, founder of Rustic Wedding Chic and co-founder of the Whisper Group, and Allison Cummins, founder and CEO of Blue Outcomes. To learn more about these, please listen to their episodes on Spotify, Apple, Audible, and all of the many platforms the Growth Plus Exit podcast is on. This episode is brought to you by Newport LLC, a team of seasoned executives who help CEOs of privately held companies grow, de-risk, and exit businesses successfully. Newport LLC is the winner of the prestigious Inc. Magazine 2025 Power Partner Awards, a list of elite B2B companies from across the globe. To see the entire list, visit inc.com/Power Partner Awards. To learn more about Newport, please visit us at newportllc.com or, of course, find us on LinkedIn. Before introducing today's guests, I would like to thank Carrie Kirpin for introducing me. You can find Carrie on LinkedIn or her company's website, wearethewhispergroup.com. Today's guest is Molly McCartan. Molly is an M&A executive and strategy leader with many years of experience driving growth, business development, and operational transformation across multiple industries. She is the founder and CEO of the Mom Pact, a career and leadership platform built to advance ambitious working mothers through structured support, community, and strategic career tools. Before launching her own company, Molly led corporate strategy, business development, and M&A initiatives, giving her a deep understanding of how organizations scale and where systems fail working parents. She is a managing partner at the Whisper Group, and I can't wait to hear her talk about how she ended up joining that. Molly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Heather, and thank you for having me here. It's such an incredible audience you've curated and had such amazing guests. So I'm so excited to dive in.
Excellent. I'm really glad you're here. Let's start with your experience in M&A. Tell me about how you got into M&A, what you've learned, what surprised you about that world.
Yeah, so I think I had quite an unconventional journey into M&A. I was probably like many others who heard the acronym and didn't quite know what it meant. My background, having evolved from the strategic lens, corporate development, was a natural conduit to M&A now, having been in it for a while. But initially, again, it was something I wasn't really quite sure what it was. So I was at the time searching for what was next in my career pathways. And I saw a job description for a director in M&A, and I thought, I could do most of these things, if not all of them. Some of them, not quite sure what this entails, but I'm going to go for it, which I think is actually quite atypical from the normal female perspective of, needing to tick off every box before applying, trying to change that mindset. So anyway, I applied for the position, got an interview, and I met with the team, and I really understood that there are so many different components of M&A and what makes M&A successful. And whether you are a more traditional broker, an advisor, whether or not you're kind of focused on the post M&A part of more of the diligence integration. And I realized that the core of what makes M&A truly successful is that pairing methodology of really knowing your client and who the acquirer is. And that's something I not only enjoyed doing wholeheartedly, but really loved to dive in, learn more about the process, know every nut and bolt about the business. So although my background was unconventional in the sense of not strictly finance or investment banking or one of the more traditional routes, I think that my well-rounded background of being industry agnostic and having different experiences was actually a really good foundation for a different perspective in M&A.
Excellent, excellent. So you've entered the world, you're working on
Mhm.
it. What do you think business owners should know? Like, what do you think business owners don't know about M&A that would be really important for them to understand before they start the process?
It's actually one of the core pillars of what we say at the Whisper Group. But even if you're never thinking about selling or exiting your business from day one, structure and facilitate any conversation, any item on your P&L as if you are going to sell. The cleaner that everything is from the beginning and streamlined, the more successful your business will be scaling wise, profitability wise. And then if you do decide to exit, will make it just such an easier time in due diligence. I think there's a construed notion about how arduous due diligence is. And it can be. I don't want to say that it's not. But the cleaner everything is, it's going to be better ultimately for you, for your business. And if any auditing kind of comes in, whether or not it's through a quality earnings or just your traditional regular due diligence kind of perspective, it's just going to make everything smoother from the long run. So I would say operating the business efficiently, cleanly, and concisely from day one.
I absolutely agree. And I've worked with boards of directors and with CFOs on having that forward way of looking at
Mhm.
how the P&L is presented, how the annual report is done, so that you're not doing it for what's acceptable right now, but you're doing it to open up those opportunities in the future. So I love that you mentioned that. That's such a great perspective on due diligence. So let's talk a little more about due diligence.
Yes.
It is a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. But
Yeah.
what do you think could be easier in the industry? You know, as someone who definitely understands the industry well and is an expert in it, what do
Mhm.
you think could be better about that due diligence process?
I think by having the right team behind you from the beginning is a core pillar of making this successful. So the famous phrase that everyone uses, you don't know what you don't know. So bring in the people that do know. Have a lawyer who specializes in M&A. Have a financial, either whether it's accountant, wealth advisor, tax strategist, who again have done successful transactions, but in your space as well. So they know your industry, they know what to look out for. I think also, making sure that you go into it knowing it's going to be a lot more effort on the seller's behalf. That is common. And even if you prepare to the 10th degree, undoubtedly repetitive requests are going to come up, different requests, and maybe some kind of curveball. But again, if you talk with people or have resources around you that have been through the process that can help guide you, it will really make the process more enjoyable. And I always say, no matter how prepared you are, with the caveat, is that the last 2 weeks before close, it's going to be a little bit of a storm, whether or not. But that actually means, in my opinion, things are kind of going the right way because it's a lot to juggle, a lot to deal with. And it will get there, but just knowing that it's kind of a little bit of an emotional roller coaster as well.
Okay, so I've heard M&A and I've seen it happen for a few companies and business
Hmm.
owners, and they've described it as a full-time job.
Hmm.
So who runs the company that you're trying to sell while you're, completely consumed with trying to get ready to sell?
I love that question, but probably for not the reason that you're thinking. It's because if you built your business on the premise of exiting from day one, someone should be able to step in and help guide and navigate the day-to-day runnings of the business while the CEO and or founder is focusing on the due diligence portion of the transaction. Or in reverse, that maybe they can step away, but for whatever need, there's a fire in the business or something, that maybe their head or senior executive of operations and stuff can step into the due diligence process. So I think by having not one person contingent upon the success of either running the day to day or solely on the diligence is integral for making a successful transaction.
Absolutely. I mean, it is well known that like decreasing the dependency on the founder is absolutely required before you try to sell. Not only
Mhm.
for managing the day to day, but also for the attractiveness of the
Yes.
business and the valuation. It's going to be a
Hmm.
lot more valuable if the buyers can see that at the other end of the transaction, they're going to have a well-running company, even with or without the founder. So that is a really, really good ad. Okay, so let's talk the Whisper Group. How did
Yes.
you get connected with Carrie and the Whisper Group?
Well, it's actually quite a funny story. I think in any industry or ecosystem, the world is smaller than we think it is. So I had the opportunity to meet Carrie at my prior firm that I had worked on, who she worked with them to exit her first business. So I have actually been involved. I've known Carrie for about 6, 7 years. And I was just so admired of her ability to bootstrap, grow, scale, and sell an agency successfully. And then she had a 3-year earnout on top of it, which she is one of the few who successfully did it and did it so well that hence I was going to say she should write a book, but she did. And it's amazing. And it's called The Whisper Way. And I always admired her. Just the way she conducted herself was so different. And it was something that I emulated to become, a woman in that type of a leadership and visibility position who really conducts business the way it should be done. So again, someone I had always admired from afar, didn't know her extremely, extremely well, but knew her enough and had worked with the company again that successfully sold her first business. And then years later, I was in the midst of starting the Mom Pact, kind of looking for my next also iteration of my professional career in tandem. And I was reconnected with Carrie actually by an M&A lawyer who said, I don't know if you two know each other, but you need to meet. So we ended up talking, and Carrie asked if I would come on as more of a consultant in a consultancy capacity on this project she was working on. And I did. And I just was obsessed with not only working with what the Whisper Group's core mission and values were, but I just loved what I was doing. And I was like, this is what I'm meant to be doing in tandem with the Mom Pact. And I really wanted to be able to dive in. And I was fortunate enough that over time, I was given the opportunity to come on full time. So
that's amazing. Okay, so for the benefit of our audience who may not be familiar with the Whisper Group,
yes.
What is the Whisper Group?
Yes, so we are an exit advisory firm for female founders. So the reason and our origin story is, as I had mentioned, Carrie bootstrapped and sold her business back in 2021. And at that time, and unfortunately still, the percentage of successfully exited female founders is less than 1%. So at the time, she felt quite lonely in the sense of, okay, I had this amazing exit, but I have no one to talk to about this. I don't know anyone who's been in my shoes before. And, as she was going through the process, kind of thinking about what's next and, wishing she had that kind of guidance and support from like even peers, not from necessarily an advisory capacity. So the Whisper Group actually started as a collective, so a group of women who have exited their businesses or firms, and we have over 150 women in the collective now. And from the collective, we actually source our advisors on the advisory side of the business. So every advisor at the Whisper Group is an exited female founder. So Carrie's and the Whisper Group and Maggie Lord, our co-founder, core mission is to work on closing the exit gap. So how do we do that? We get founders ready from scale to sale and are able to work and kind of provide the pathway based upon what they want. We don't tell them what they should do or what they want to do. We really get to know who we're going to be working with through our Whisper report, which is kind of our entryway of knowing the financials, knowing where the business stands. What's your exit goal? And then how do we work backwards to achieve that? So that's kind of one portion of the business. And then the other kind of part of the flywheel is, let's say you are ready to move forward at that point, past the advisory stage where we work with you quite intimately to get your business from scale to sale. Then we can be, your advisors throughout the M&A journey. So really coming in, help advising you on the LOI, looking at your list of potential buyers that you would ultimately like to be acquired by, and or you might have a buyer already lined up. And then something else that we do is, because we have such a curated network within the M&A ecosystem, we can refer you to people, again, the lawyers, CPA, tax strategists, investment banks if needed, that we trust wholeheartedly and just know that they'll be an ideal fit for our client. So we would pair that as well and kind of quarterback the team in addition.
So this is so good that you provide all of that consistency in advisory. And I love the one thing that you mentioned about the advisory is listening to the goals of the founder. And it's not, I found in my experience, it's not always the highest price tag that they want to walk away with.
Yes.
It can have, you can have very diverse goals having to do with people or industry specific, or what they want to
Mhm.
do afterward or how they want to be developed. There's a lot of goals that have nothing to do with money that need to be considered in order
Mhm.
for the sale to be considered successful by that founder. So I love that you mentioned specifically that that's a core tenet of Whisper
Mhm.
Group. So industries, like, tell me some of the variety of industries that these wonderful 150 advisors are from, so we can understand like how broad this covers.
The broadening has no limitation in the sense of we've been fortunate enough to work with such a variety of different niches. And the reason that is, as your point, our community and how we source advisors, we curate our teams so that we have so many verticals so that we can really be able to match our clients with the industries that they're representing. I mean, we have everything from we just helped facilitate the closing of an elevated plush toy company. So working with kind of the IPs, SKUs, logistics. Then we've worked with other wedding companies because of Maggie's background, network connections. Carrie and I come from more of the agency space. So again, that ecosystem. Then we have some advisors who've worked in healthcare, biotech, regular tech. We've had education companies curated around education, gift giving companies. So what we want to be able to do is, again, taking that personalization into the core of what we do and why we do it. So if you're coming on board as a client and we're trying to figure out what advisor makes the most sense, not only from the niche perspective, but there's also a personality match. You kind of, when you really get to know people you're working with, you only look at typically what's on the paper, right? Okay, they've worked in this company, they worked in this company, but we take it an additional layer. And we really want to make sure that the team feels like it's a true partnership and that ultimately it's a friend someone can go to, because it's a very, bringing back to my earlier point, emotional journey. So making sure you have that support both from the transactional side, but also the more empathetic side, because it is such a, emotional and physical process when you're going through this.
Absolutely. So it goes back to your earlier point about having the right team around you and really
Yes.
making sure you've got the star players to make things
Yeah.
happen. Um,
Yes.
so what's anything in the future for the Whisper Group that you want to share?
Yeah, we are continuously evolving not only our pool of advisors, and again, making
Mhm.
sure that we're touching upon all the industry niches, making sure that we are constantly listening to our clients to continuously evolve our current offerings and core pillars, and making sure that we're making our community of exited female founders as strong as possible, meaning our resources, the value add we bring, and the visibility. And I think, again, what you'll see to come is more and more driving towards really closing that exit gap and pushing the data metrics in our favor as women.
Excellent. And I can only imagine the relationships and the collaborations that are going to happen as more and more female-led investor groups are
Mhm.
started. I'm
Yes.
seeing a lot of energy in that area in terms of venture capital and whatnot. So that's a great NPE. So
Hmm.
I think the entire ecosystem of what you guys have created fits in very well with the energy that's happening across the industry, which is very exciting. So
Yes.
let's talk about the Mom Pact. I want to hear
Yes.
more.
Yes. So I built the Mom Pact out of the premise of having two children, going on maternity leave twice, and felt that I was kind of thrown into a no man's land. Meaning, a lot of companies, especially at the corporate level, because both my leaves were on in a corporate setting, they don't tell you what to do. They essentially just say, "This is our policy. Figure it out." So I felt that was very stressful because you're trying to A, deal with pregnancy while working full time, B, trying to do your daily job, and maybe you have other children at home. So I wanted to have a resource where I knew my rights, my laws by state, whether it was for actual maternity coverage or if you're thinking about family planning, your fertility benefits. Because a lot of organizations, especially at that time when I had my first child, did not cover anything. It was kind of a taboo topic, and just trying to understand what that means and how I can maximize my leave. And then the other core part of that, but beyond the legal components, was how is my job going to be secure? What does that look like? I'm leading a team of 25 people. What's going to happen when I go on leave? So I found that really stressful, to not have any sort of plan or somebody that helps guide you through that process of what it looks like what makes the best kind of 60, 90-day plan for going on leave, and then also for coming back. So not only the team doesn't feel the gap, the clients don't feel a gap. So I felt that this was very lacking in the industry. So I wanted to create a tech platform that enabled that confidentiality to be able to kind of talk through all the things, but put together a customized plan. And then also, as moms, we want to pivot maybe our career at some point. Maybe the full-time type of work isn't serving us anymore, whether it's for timing or fiscally or whatever the case may be. So what does it look like? And how would I transition from a W-2 to a 1099? So part of the Mom Pact too is actually, we have an intake form that customizes an entire dashboard plan for you, talking about everything based on your personal career point growth. And whether you're preparing for an interview, it actually uploads your resume going through the interview prep, whether you're trying to do salary negotiation, what's market standard, not using Glassdoor. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just a little bit more government regulated. And then also being able to have that place where you can ask these questions, whether your child needs services or whether or not you're trying to figure out, if you're going to make this career pivot, what that looks like and how you ultimately get there. So it really is an all-encompassing platform that includes a custom AI tool inside of it that is personalized by individual.
Yeah, there are a lot of things happening all at once. And at the same time, you're supposed to be doing your job.
Yeah, exactly.
As well.
Exactly.
I think it's interesting too. You talk about the how when you're preparing for that maternity leave, it's very similar to what a good founder would do, which is making sure that you are not completely dependent. So, I definitely view that as a precursor to moms being able to start companies and prepare them for exit afterward, after they've had kids and can start moving forward. Why not?
Exactly. And some founders have come to me asking, like, they want to start some sort of a maternity policy for their employees, but they might not be big enough for a company-wide mandated leave. So also working through what that could look like, whether it's putting aside a certain fund for your employee or a certain mechanism where revenue can still come in, and they don't feel the brunt of having to take leave in an entrepreneurial or startup kind of ecosystem as well. Or the founder themselves wants to budget for leave. We actually have a budgeting tool in the app that puts in what you're making and how you can best allocate funds so that you don't have, any lack of revenue coming in during your leave.
Oh, that's phenomenal. And, anything you can do to take those worries off the plate is really important.
Yes, absolutely.
So what's your vision for the company, for the Mom Pact going forward?
Ideally, I just want this to be an accessible resource for women everywhere. I found it really hard, especially when you're earlier in your career. You might not have the funds to be able to support whether it's a consultant or someone to help you really get in the weeds. So I wanted something that A, is affordable, but worth you investing your time and energy in as well. And B, something, again, with that anonymity, I think is really important. I think not all people want to kind of disclose what they're feeling. Maybe you're looking for a job, of course, and you don't want to advertise that either. And it really becomes a thought partner and leader that you could access at any time. Because as we know, motherhood is not 9 to 5. So if I want to have my thoughts at 10 o'clock on a Thursday night, that I could look it up and get my answers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me about some of your proudest moments, because you've done some incredible work across M&A and with the Whisper Group and the Mom Pact. What are some of your proudest moments during that time?
I truly believe it's seeing other women succeed is the biggest thing for me. Seeing people who have gone through and bootstrapped and built businesses and achieve a life-changing result, and whatever life-changing means, if it's fiscally or it's something that they believe in from a not-profit standpoint and they're able to contribute or access that, or in a corporate lens, a woman who has, worked her way up so hard and then lands, an executive or C-suite position, and or a woman who's starting out in her career and gets her first promotion. Just seeing other women win, and then in tandem I've been so fortunate to get such amazing people in my life that have helped me at different points, and any opportunity that I can to help anyone, I just want to jump on, and that makes me so happy.
I love that. So tell me about where you're from. You know, that you obviously have a lot of passion about helping others.
Mhm.
What in your childhood and your background do you think led to that mission-driven focus on the work that you do?
Yeah, so my mom is a school teacher of over 35 years, and my dad was a government attorney. So both positions that really served other people, and their focal point was other people. And I am so grateful that I grew up in a household where I had two full-time working parents. So I was given the example that it's okay that if you want to, as a young woman, be something, more successful or work full time and be a mom, that you can do it both. And seeing that firsthand just got me very, very excited, even from a young age. I had quite ambitious dreams, and having parents who fostered and facilitated that growth along the way, I feel extremely, grateful for. And I think that allowed me to really open up my mind and to foster this ability to help other people, because my parents were always fueled with that mentality of, you need to be a kind person first and foremost. You should always help other people, and there's enough room for success for everyone. And that's starting from childhood. And I think that is a really core pillar. And actually, something Carrie says all the time, and Maggie, that, you should elevate other women and be able to, and men, and support whomever. But I think, again, having that mindset that it's not this Darwinism, this fittest survive. I think there's enough to go around. And the more you do to help other people, the more people are going to want to help you.
Okay, so talking about helping other people, we are in a very unique job market right now.
Yeah.
So the new, the graduating students, so those,
Mhm.
people early in their careers, like you talked about, who are preparing to graduate from school, preparing to start their careers. What advice would you give them, given how complicated and rocky it is right now in the job market?
I would say do what you love. I think too many people are focused upon hearing what's trendy, what's new, what's going to get you the biggest dollar. You're not going to be happy, and you're not going to be determined to succeed if you don't love what you do. So I think you have to really find the passion. I think always elevating your skill set. So whatever it is that you're really wonderful at and can succeed, find something that maybe is one of your weaknesses and try to work on that and making that a stronger positioning. You don't have to be an expert, but I think as well-rounded and versatile you are, makes you a more desirable applicant, makes you a more desirable intern, more desirable in any facet of what your career journey is. And the biggest thing that I've taken away, and I think people tend to have sometimes forgotten about because of social media, you want to be in the room with the people that you want to become. You want to be in the rooms, whether or not that's starting from very, administrative kind of level, or maybe something along that line. Maybe it's not what you ultimately want to do. Just get in the door. The first job, or one of your first jobs, is not going to necessarily be the last. And every job that you have, there's an opportunity to learn. So take advantage of it. Even if it's really hard, it's not your forever. Find something that you could benefit and be a sponge and learn everything about it.
Oh, that's such great advice. Okay, so speaking of great advice, who are your mentors, and what's some of the best advice you've gotten from your mentors?
Yes. So it might sound a little cheesy, the one I'm going to start with, but it's my parents, for different ways. My dad always telling me I can do whatever I want to do because I'm a very hard worker. And if I continue along that pathway, my mom being a working mom for so long, and just, again, always supporting and advocating and being a financial guru. I always respected that. But professionally, I would actually say Carrie and Maggie have been really integral for me. I, been fortunate enough to have great bosses, or maybe kind of an element of mentorship. But again, to meet women like that and to have the opportunity to see firsthand of all these exited founders I've met and just see how kind they are. And I've noticed one common theme about the mentors in my life. It's always the first question they ask is, what can I do to help you? What would be helpful from me? And that is such a selfless and authentic way that, again, it's someone that I emulate to become. So I would say, you know, both of those women, and Carrie, I've known her for quite a long time now. And again, I learn from her every day, as a mom, as a career professional, as an amazing wife. And I just, every opportunity that we have, when we're working together in these big projects or speaking at conferences, and just taking it all in and learning from her and then the other women around us. And I think that I'm very fortunate to have that kind of an ecosystem built in my group and learn from.
It's phenomenal. Good and very good examples.
Thank you.
So in order to have all the energy to do everything that you do and do it so well, what are some of your daily rituals that you find important to help you get through a typical day?
Yeah, so I have to work out every day or else my brain does not function. And again, it's not from an aesthetic point of view, although that's always helpful to be in shape to some extent, but it's more from my mental clarity. For me, it's like the therapy every day. If I just get those, 30 minutes to an hour every morning that I could clear my head and get the day started, it's the best for me, energy-wise, as a parent, as a professional. And I think that there goes so much when you put and invest time into your personal health. It shows in more ways than one. And it kind of ties back again to my upbringing. I was a college athlete, so it's always been important to me to have that routine, that consistency, sets myself up for the day. And I try to get a good night's sleep, but that's not always, that's a hit or miss one. I can't say that that's something that I practice wholeheartedly, and a strong cup of cold brew.
Absolutely. I was going to say the sleep thing, you are in the M&A world. Let's be realistic here.
Yes.
So anyone who's in anything surrounding the excitement of building and selling a business, there's going to be days where the hours are a little unusual, and that's to be expected, but again, never boring, which is always a good thing. I have one last question to ask, but before I ask it, I want to point people to your website at themompact.com and wearethewhispergroup.com, or of course they can reach you on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So the last question is, what is a hard lesson that you've learned throughout your experience in M&A and, growing businesses, founding your business, that you'd like to share with other CEOs or other business owners and entrepreneurs so that they can avoid maybe some of that difficulty?
Surround yourself with people who you admire, respect, and either want to become or are your peers. Because when you have that level of trust and vulnerability, exactly what you just said, that's when people share their learning experiences that you can know firsthand of kind of what to avoid to the best of your extent. Actually, Carrie has a podcast called The Exit Whisperer. And I always say, and this is kind of tying into the other part of your question, although we all hate to fail, you learn more from failures than successes. So as much as failures are disappointing, they're really hard to go through, try to extrapolate what you can learn from that, what you can grow from that, what you're going to evolve from, and then you're not going to ultimately do that again. So you're going to just become stronger with every iteration of a setback. My favorite podcast in general that I listen to or books I read is to hear what people went through to get where they ultimately got. And I would say a majority of the times it's through what you said, listening to other people around them that might have avoided a pitfall, but then undoubtedly everyone's going to have something that they face. So not only it's what you learn from what you face, it's how you deal with it and conduct yourself from when these things happen.
That is really, really good advice. So you had mentioned that there's some of your favorite books. Off the top of your head, what are some books that you would recommend every business owner should read?
Yes. So 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. I absolutely love that book. Obviously, Atomic Habits by James Clear. This is going to sound biased, but I promise it's not the whisper way. Carrie wrote this book taking you through like the exit process methodology, but in a story type of fashion. So I found it extremely digestible and exciting to read. And then Emma Greed's new book, I am obsessed with so far, and I'm diving into that as well. I have about 20 books next to my nightstand at all times.
Excellent. These are all,
Yes.
and I'm a big fan of all of those as well. So good choices, very much good
Thank you.
choices.
Thank you.
I've been talking with Molly McCartan, the founder of the Mom Pact and managing director for the Whisper Group. Molly, thank you so much for sharing your story, experience, inspiration, and advice. I'm so, so grateful you could be on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Heather. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Growth Plus Exit podcast, sponsored by Newport, a unique national business advisory firm. If you enjoyed this show, be sure to share, like, and subscribe for future episodes.